Good morning, beautiful self-lovers. We're back. It's the Self-Love Show, and I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, with my gorgeous co-host here, Trish Wright. And we have an amazing guest today, Tangee, my beautiful sister Tangee, known for a long time, and just this is a sacred opportunity to really dive deep into her beautiful purpose work. And so, without further ado, I'm going to read her bio. But before that, if you are new to the Self Love Show, thank you for watching and tuning in. And for our viewers that always tune in, we love you and appreciate you so much. So we just appreciate this show every week and give so much gratitude for the opportunity to do this and serve in this way. So without further ado, I'm going to read Tangee's beautiful bio. And really, we're going to explore a great topic today. And, this is dear to my heart, so I'm really grateful that Tangee does this work. So it's recoding our inner child wounds in order to consciously reparent ourselves and co-parent effectively. So in order for us to raise our children more consciously and to break the recycled parenting patterns that we are raised in, we must do the inner work with healing our inner child wounds. The same goes for being able to co-parent more consciously. As well, Tangee Zenryka Veloso will be sharing the importance of looking within and focusing on our own self-love journey. Whenever we get triggered by our children and or the co-parent, she will also share tools and exercises that have helped her to create a deeper connection with her own self-love, as well as her connection with her son and her son's dad, which is so beautiful. So as a mindset connection coach, Tangee will also do a recording activation to release any limiting beliefs you may have around self-love, parenting, co-parenting, and abundance, money, beautiful things. And she is also known as the Mama Warriorpreneur and the founder of executive director of the Solo Mama Warriorpreneur Summit, Wisdom Warriorpreneur Alliance, Soul Mama's Love Tribe, and Family Love Village. Wow, so incredible. She's a visionary activist, an online digital creatrix, an author, a speaker, and a single homeschooling mama, and a certified mindset connection coach who specializes in showing driven single mamas and women how to balance self-love, conscious parenting, and build legacy income online by leveraging social media while getting paid to be you. Yes! So, Tangee's number one selling book, Taming Your Wild Child, 7 Proven Principles for Raising Connected and Confident Children, has also been created into a 7-week online course and 12-month mastermind for single moms called Soul Mama's Love Tribe, based on her book and self-love tools. She has organized and facilitated numerous workshops locally and at massive festivals with the sole vision to co-create a thriving community to support and educate families on parenting through connection and eco-holistic living. She's been featured as a speaker at several workshops, podcasts, YouTube channels, and she has written many articles featured in the FL Village, Crier, Huffington Post, Mothering Magazine, Kids Before Conflict, and other various blogs and magazines. Her mission is to create a new earth paradigm in how we are consciously communicating and connecting to ourselves, our children, each other, and the planet. Through mutual respect, compassionate communication, healthy boundaries, as well as tapping into an abundance mindset, Tangee guides you in focusing on you becoming the best version of yourself first in order to give others permission to be theirs. Wow. Thank you for this beautiful bio.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so honored and excited to be here with all of you. Thank you.
You're just doing such good work in the world. This is incredible. I'm really resonant with what you do and so grateful to share in this beautiful opportunity today.
Thank you.
So I have a question that we can start off with.
Yes.
And okay, I'm just going to fully disclose that I am not a mother.
Beautiful.
And that's just like full on. You two are moms. I'm probably gonna have some opinions that are gonna be like, whatever. You never birthed anything. Well, I birthed some things, and I have a cat, which is different, and I've had some dogs before. The question that I have is really around. Okay, so I'm gonna give you some context and then ask the question. So in our world now, the understanding of psychology and the understanding of the spiritual work that has it's only gotten significantly more defined, and we've had more understanding about psychology and child psychology as of from the 80s, to now. Like now we're like, oh God, we kind of know how all this stuff works. And now there's attachment theory, and now we have like more definitions.
Right.
What I think is happening, which I love, is that we're understanding how our early childhood wounding or our early childhood patterning creates our imprinting, creates the way that we have habits that carry us through into adulthood. This is why, some of us, this is why some of us go, ah! And this is why some of us go, ah! And this is why some of us are like in relationships, friendships, whatever. My question to you is, okay, my question is around the recoding the inner child. So why would we recode, and what would be the signs, symptoms? Like, what would we do? Like, if I was like, well, why am I watching this show right now? What's like, I just dropped in from, planet wherever, whatever my personal name is. I've never heard anything about childhood stuff. Why would I be here? And what would I like, how did I get here? Right.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I love that you mentioned that you're not a mom, because you don't have to be a mom to be able to heal the inner child wounds like you were talking about. And it's really important because there's 32 points in our brain that store limiting beliefs. And a lot of these limiting beliefs aren't our own. We were born from conditional love. We were born in love. And so at growing up in our childhood, we get ingrained and, like you were saying, imprinted, programmed with other people's beliefs. A lot of our money stories, just for one, is usually brought on from our parents. A lot of our limiting beliefs are brought on from our parents, teachers, an authoritative figure that that we were raised by. And so it's really important for us to reprogram any of those limiting beliefs, anything where we feel like we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not worthy enough, anything we're not good, anything where we have those limiting beliefs. I feel all of us, raise your hand if you've had a limiting belief growing up that you don't know where it came from. Like, where did this come from? And it's ingrained not only from our parents, but I feel also as a society. Our society is ingrained, especially with these parenting styles. I call it traditional parenting styles, authoritative parenting styles that no longer serve us as a human race. And so that's what I'm passionate about with conscious parenting, is reframing those limiting beliefs and learning conscious communication and compassionate communication and mutual respect and healthy boundaries in order to release those limiting beliefs, those recycled parenting patterns that we were raised in, to break those recycled parenting patterns. I hope that answered your question.
It absolutely answers the question. And I too resonate with this because I've done this work in my own life. And, this is why we share about spiritual psychology, because, this is spiritual curriculum. Like, we all are born into circumstances that are going to imprint us in a way that it's going to serve our purpose to awaken to later in life. And it takes digging up all the places and trauma patterns and things that have happened. And you don't have to have like a traumatic, childhood life to have conditioning. You could have had a great childhood life and still have imprints and conditioning. This is the way it works. I just happen to have one of those childhoods where I've had to recover from, child abuse. So that's what led me on this journey of really doing the deeper dive around my childhood imprints and things. So what you speak my language.
Yes. I agree with you. Yeah, what it is from I want to share a quote from one of my family therapist that my son's dad and I used to go to, and she was a legend in the homeschooling community. And she was also a conscious parent advocate. And I put this in my book, and it's, we all bring to our relationships the good and the bad from our own upbringing. Children will always make us face any unfinished issues we may have from our own childhood.
Yes.
Much of the work we do with parents is helping them to unravel and heal their own childhood hurts so they can bring healthy patterns into their own family. So it's going to come up in another form. If we're not willing to do the inner work, to do the shadow work, do the inner work, take radical responsibility on our own selves instead of pointing out and playing the victim role and looking within to do the work, that's going to come up in another form, whether it's through our children, whether it's through another relationship, whether it's through another boss, another partner with business. It's going to show up until we heal those inner child wounds.
Absolutely.
I love what you said about, and I've said this multiple times on previous shows. I love what you said about your thoughts and how we understand the world. So I've said this, and I'm going to reiterate what you said, is that the way that we think is in the language of our parents.
Yes.
How we were taught to speak, how we were taught to see the world, how we were taught to think is through the language and through the tone, through the filter of our family, our whoever was closest to us. So that could be your mother, father, mother, father, who knows what your particular dynamic was. And as well as the school system, the small community, the people you were hanging out with, whoever your family was hanging out with, as well as the smaller local community and the society that we grew up in. The work that I'm doing right now is all kind of dissolving codependent patterning, which is actually, as I'm seeing it, it's a global epidemic. The idea that we're subservient or love is sacrifice. Love is sacrifice is actually a really common idea, especially in the codependency, but of a global love, right? So we're taught to behave in these ways and that's, sometimes, I don't know, for everyone watching, I'd love to hear if you have one of these. If I ever say this out loud, you know that it's in my mother's voice. Dear Trisha, that is literally my mother's, like, who knows what it would have been. What I was a crazy kid. Whatever. I was always getting into trouble. So in that sense, is like, if you're wondering why something's happening in your life, and it's a consistent pattern, if you're aware enough to see the consistent pattern, and I'll tell a little story about something I just dissolved over the course of the last year. And there's a feeling like, I was like, I'm alone. Like, I feel really alone. I'm surrounded by people. I'm feeling really alone. And not even a day later, I'm on the phone with my mom. She's like, I'm alone all the time. And da-da-da. I was like, uh-oh.
Ding, ding, ding.
And then I got on Facebook and I was like, tick, 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 with my aunties. And I reached out and I was like, do you or the other sisters or grandma have the I'm alone story? It sounds like this. And she goes, oh yeah, like I have that one. And I've heard this. And then I've also heard your grandmother. And I was like, oh my God, that's a story that runs generationally. I don't have to carry it anymore. I am not alone. So that is the one of, like, just one of a plethora of things that I get to recode for my inner child. Like that's something I've been carrying as an only child for my entire life. Do I get to carry that anymore? Nope. And sometimes it's not necessarily about the willingness to make change, but the awareness that there's something to change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and your blind spot. That's why you have a coach and a therapist and best friends. Right. Hope your best friends are calling you out on your shit, because that's a real good friend. If you have anyone like that, go find a relationship, and they'll certainly show you what's up. Right.
No, I love that. I love that. I'd actually like to even take it even further and a little bit deeper, because
Yeah.
I feel like and this may be a little weird and out there, but when we can say, when we say there's really nothing to fix, change, or improve about ourselves.
Yes.
We're not broken.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so if we can get that limiting belief out of our brains and that's been something that we have been ingrained. Oh, I'm broken. I'm this, I'm that. If we continue to have that repetitive story, then yes, of course we're going to be.
And it draws and tracks those same circumstances over and over and over again to you until you have a breakthrough and realize that you're running that egoic, crystallized pattern structure thought process.
Yeah. Yes. So then how can we, so if we're not broken and there's no fixing or improving, and that's where it stems from our childhood, like the lineage, the ancestral, that's where it's like it goes even deeper with our ancestral lineage to heal those inner child wounds, because it doesn't just come from our own childhood. It comes from the whole society. And so there's a thing in my book that I talk about, and it's the good jobs. Good job. And don't take this the wrong way. Good job is, we're like, well, what's wrong with good job? We say it so much. If you notice in our society, good job for sliding down going down the slide. Good job for walking. Good job for doing this. Good job. And it's like, yeah, good job. And so what we do, what that's training us, teaching us, is to look outside of ourselves for approval, acceptance, and appreciation, to be seen, to be heard, rather than looking within ourselves, knowing that we are good enough.
Mm-hmm. It's also creating duality of good and impressing that you have to work for validation.
Right.
In order to experience your worth.
Right. Right. So it's like this is the work that we get to do. And it's like healing those child wounds is a powerful part of it. And it's like, and like you were talking about thoughts, our thoughts are so powerful. What we think over and over can create our reality.
It's so much deeper than even just the thoughts. What happens is when the ego, because when you're a child, your ego is forming, you know what I mean? And your imprints come before you're even 7. Like the whole thing is set up before you're even cognitive, literally.
Yes.
So what happens is the ego is formed in those really deep, the subconscious makes a choice about things you witness.
Yeah.
I'll use as an example. My parents used to fight about money all the time. It was very, very scary and terrifying to witness my dad rage and like my mom be scared. So I learned that women are disempowered in money. I learned all these things around this one occurrence over and over again, right? And so I had to really peel back the layers of all this stuff in my childhood conditioning. And it's powerful because those imprints, like I think my subconscious made a choice that it's not safe. Money is not safe in relationships, right? And like I've had to really deeply rework all of that in my own, and now it is safe. Like, and I can honestly say, what it was a really strong parental pattern of sex and money playing out. They fought about both. They hid the sex piece, but they fought about the money piece openly and about everything. And my dad fought about it with everybody. It wasn't just my mom, you know what I mean? And like had a lot of issues around it. And so I grew up terrified about this. And in fact, like I was terrified about both, really. And I had to reclaim my power there and realize like I'm empowered here and it's okay. It's safe, right? It's safe to have these conversations. They're not terrifying.
Right.
And I had to let that go. I had to do deep inner work. And really, I had to express the rage of being so terrified because the rage was caught in my body, literally. And I was afraid to feel my rage and anger about what I experienced because I was told that it's wrong or bad to experience your rage or anger, that it's not womanly, it's not feminine, it's not empowered to feel your rage. And that's wrong, because it's actually sacred and it's a teacher. But underneath that, I had deep sorrow and sadness that I experienced those things so young.
Right. Yeah. See, and I love that you pointed out that you had to release the rage, and that rage is not something evil or bad, because they're just emotions, and we get invalidated growing up with our emotions, even to the point where, when you fall, when the toddler falls and they start crying and they look at you like, oh, you're okay, you're fine, that you're okay. That's invalidating and teaching them to push down their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're talking about it's not okay for women to not rage. With how about the boys and the men?
Mm-hmm.
They're not. Crying is for sissies, and be a big boy, be tough. And it's like, this is what our society is raising us in, is not to be enraged and not to cry, not to feel our emotions, and invalidating our feelings and emotions since childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. The way the pattern was showing up, I just want to add this piece in because I need to share this. So that pattern was there, and then it was unconsciously showing up in my own relationships over and over again. And I left multiple relationships when I was young because I thought that it was like this thing that I didn't understand, that I was generating that it was coming from the inside, that my egoic patterning and my belief structures that I experienced, that was born into, didn't realize that I was co-creating that, to learn about it, to let it go, to heal it, and ultimately lead me on my purpose work, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got into a loving container, broke all the cycle of abuse, and found a really beautiful, beautiful soulmate man that I'm still married to, that I can do the deeper work, dive with, and do the deep work with. And the patterns were able to show up still in that marriage, and be able to gently and lovingly work through it and reclaim my power to where now it's a conversation. It's not a huge fight. It's not a scary topic. It's not a place of like, oh, fuck, like my life is ending. How it used to feel when I was a child.
Ah, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that success story. Yes. And that's the power of doing the inner work. That's the power of recoding our limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And what we were ingrained in. Yes. Yes. I mean, growing up, I had the story of like, with my mom and my dad, they divorced when I was 8. And so I saw my mom go from couple of different relationships, not a lot, but a couple of them. And my mom's ex-boyfriend, he was the one that really, like, it was very strict, very, very, it's like I felt very controlled. And I also saw I just saw my mom working really hard. She was just hustling. When she was a single mom, and then when she was in this relationship, she was a workaholic. And so I saw that with money and going, okay, well, I have to be a workaholic. I have to work hard. And when I became a single mom, I even worked doubly hard, so it's just like I had this mindset that I had to hustle as a single mom. And so in the past couple of years, I've been healing that, because I don't, hustling to me was a negative connotation for me. Yeah. So it was like negative experience. So now it's like, no, I get to do what I love. It's not out of like, because I feel hustling is out of scarcity, out of lack in my own experience of it. And so now I get to do it out of abundance, out of love for what I'm bringing to the world.
That's beautiful. I really celebrate that. Yeah. Gorgeous work. Yes. Yes. It's very important, because you're co-creating with spirit and bringing powerful information and serving so many women that are single moms in the world, and they need it the most because the children need it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And everyone needs this work. And it's great that you're untangling from that stuff that just kept you held back, really. And now you can experience yourself as a mompreneur, shining and owning your worth, and really expressing your beauty and your grace, and having quality time, balanced quality time to really relish in your life.
Yeah, it's so important. Like I realized that we were talking about Trish, when you were talking about the codependency in our society and how that is that's like the real pandemic right here is the codependency. And I actually, it reminded me of a post that I wrote a while back about self-love is, codependency is self-love's kryptonite.
Yes.
And it's about the self-love, when we can truly start to heal those inner child wounds and start to really, really love ourselves, take the steps to really love ourselves through the self-care and the inner work and just unraveling, all that crap, the shit that we were raised in. And just like, that's what it is. I feel that we are here not only for us to do our soul's purpose, but I feel a big piece of that soul's purpose is self-love. And I love that your show is the self-love show. And so that was my hugest piece, because I was so codependent in all my relationships. I don't think, before my son's dad, we were married for 18 years, but before him, and we were together from when I was 22 until, oh gosh, well, I'm 48 now. It was 18 years. I can't count, can't do the math right now. But basically, before him, I was in a relationship. I never was not in a relationship. I jumped from relationship to relationship to relationship. And it was just, this is my first time. In November, it'll be 8 years that I've been single. Like, I've had, certain things, dated and stuff like that, but nothing serious enough, especially introduced to my son. But, and that was the journey of the self-love and having not to be codependent and to love myself again. It was huge. It was a huge, huge transformation. And it was back in 2017. I had just launched my book, Unconscious Parenting. And even though I launched my book and I was like so excited, I actually went camping. One of my best friends, we went to go, we were going to be fire performing for our friend's music video. And it was also kind of like a Burning Man type of event, so we were there kind of, it wasn't a big event, but I wanted to celebrate. I was like, this is going to be, my first time camping, and I'm celebrating my book launching. But I was also on a very self-destructive path. I was very self-destructive. I was partying too much when I didn't have my son. I was not in a good space with my self-love. And I ended up partying way too much that night. I didn't get burned from fire performing. I actually fell in a coal. It was man-made, so there were no rocks around it, so you can see that it was like there was coals, because the fire had burned down, and so it was low coals. So because I was inebriated, I fell into that fire pit, and I burned myself really bad on my butt, my thigh, and my hand and my arm. I had like 2.5-degree burns. And so we had to go, next morning we went to the hospital. That was a journey in itself. But it was like, that was when it was the fork in the road. Like, Tangee, you just launched this book on conscious parenting. You're not being conscious to your inner child. Like, what are you doing? You have this fork in the road. You can either go down this path of self-destruction and self-loathing and what you've got a son you're going to be modeling this to, or you can go down this path and really do the freaking inner work. Yeah. So that was like, it was a painful experience, but it was the gift. It was a beautiful gift that I knew right away was like, okay, it's time to wake the fuck up, Tangee.
I love that you had that conversation with yourself.
Yeah. I was like, look, this is it. This is it.
All right.
Right? We call this in spiritual psychology the stackers, because life keeps bringing you, spirit keeps bringing you stack, 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 stack. Like sometimes that saying, it rains when it pours.
Yes.
That's the same concept, right? It's like with the pressure. There's like this stacking. Your God, it's like what, and it's really all in service of your awakening, to wake up to the next level of your awareness, right? To wake up and break through the conditioning. And it forces us. It's like, it's going to keep stacking and it's going to keep bringing it until you choose, I'm not choosing to buy into any egoic structure or conditioning or thought process that I was raised with or conditioned to be. And I know that I'm more than my mind. I'm more than my emotions. I'm more than my thoughts. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And I'm here to live into my authentic expression. And to do so, I'm willing to do the deep dive to explore what it is that's holding me back from giving my full self and
Yes.
loving my full self.
Yes. Yes. I love that. The stackers. Is that what you called it?
Yeah.
Stackers. Yeah, I love it. You know, and even after that though, so it comes in layers. So the ego is going to still show up, and the ego is not a bad or evil thing. The ego is just there to protect us. You know, really is what it's there for. But I still, even after that experience, you think I would fully have 100% woken up, but then I still kind of, you know, because it's that pattern. That's like, you know, the self-destructiveness. It's like, you know, 40 something years of having those limiting beliefs and you know, unworthiness, you know, from the conditioning of our society. So it's like, you know, there's still going to be layers. So even then I still had a couple more incidences where I was like, okay, this is enough, Tangee. Okay. Wasn't that painful enough? And that's like, I still have the scar. It's not as bad. And you can't even really see the scar here, but I still see the scar in my butt, but I look at it and it's the beautiful reminder.
Wow. Wow. I'm so
I
proud
was
of
thinking
you.
of getting a tattoo. I was thinking of getting a tattoo there. I'm like, no, all, this is beautiful right here. This is beautiful to see it and just be reminded.
Yeah. What a powerful choice of the fork in the road. And you made the choice to step onto your path fully. Like, yeah. I'm not willing to be unconscious in places anymore. I'm going to choose my consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Let me share.
To rope it back into the recoding, right? Like this is where the recoding kind of began for you. It sounds like deeply.
Yeah. Well, I started learning. So one of the tools that I do with recoding is called Access Consciousness. And I actually started learning about this and probably when my son was 3. So it'd been, you know, but I really started doing the recoding and really started going down this path of like when I became a single mom. And then when I became a mindset connection coach back in 2015. It's like I knew this was my path. Like ever since I was a child, I knew I wanted to do something to help others. It was me reading this book with Nightingale. It's Florence Nightingale, and yes. She's a nurse. She was a nurse, and I just read the book, and I was like, wow. It wasn't that I wanted to be a nurse, but I just knew innately as a child that this is what I wanted to help and empower others. And so back in 2003, I was actually a coach back then, but my son's dad and I had separated the first time back then. And I didn't feel worthy enough. I didn't feel like my life is a mess. How can I help others when my life is a mess? A decade later, 2013, we're separated again. I'm really single. Now I'm a mom to a 4-year-old. And on my own and having to rediscover who I was. And so, and then I get introduced again to the coaching. I'm like, okay, universe, I hear you. This is, now this is the path. I know that this is part of it with the self-love. I knew it was trickling in with the self-love. And I knew, and that after the burn, that was like, okay, now it's time. Now it's time to do it. So the recoding, yeah, it definitely fully began my journey with when I became a single mom, and when I got burned, that was it.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Say it again.
For any of our viewers who are watching, and you want to share a little bit, what was the aha moment that made you change, that gave you the opportunity to go, this is enough's enough? Like when we start to see those patternings, these patterns, these cycles and ways of being.
Yeah.
There's so much I wanted to share, and I so far on the conversation, so take it away.
I kept rambling. Sorry.
there's yeah. I'm kind of feeling like, oh, I don't know where to go. I wanted to say so many things. I guess one of the things that I really wanted to say, which is like so far gone, was how codependency shows up and how people could to define that for others. Because we had landed a really big section without really telling anybody kind of how that shows up.
Right.
Codependency is there's a lot of symptoms behind that, and again, it's a social program or
It
a
is.
program where we again, it's the place where we're taught to love as a I have to do something for your love. It's a program for unworthiness of. And so if I do something to get your love, Tangee, and it's like it's a facade, it's a game, it's a strategy to get your needs. And things that fall into this are oh gosh, people pleasing.
Right.
Definitely.
That's a huge one. I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Yep. Another piece of it is also the passive aggressiveness. That's another piece of codependency. And and of course we're all taught that. Recoding, like, do you want to pass that to your children? Nobody wants to pass that to their children. They want to have self-love. And how I'm really understanding self-love to be is self-responsibility, self-sourcing, and learning new strategies to get your needs met. So when I notice that I'm resentful for doing something for someone, I can sense that I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at me, right? And I can take responsibility there to set clearer boundaries in the future, right? And that is a self-love. It's not all like rainbows, butterflies, exercise, and getting your nails done. Like, in fact, that's like a surface form of self-care. That's the boost of the vanity or the ego. What it really is, yeah, like the self-love show, it's what it was a year ago to what it is for me now is really how to build the skills of self-reliance. Not as in like the hyper independence, the trauma informed hyper independence, not like that, where it's like, oh, I can't get help, but to actually find the courage to stand in the center, to find the center, to say, I'm not going to get fucked up and, like, do these things because I want something greater than this.
Yeah.
And it is having the conversations of like, bitch, I don't know what you're thinking right now. Do you really want to do this? I love you. And I understand why you're doing it. I have massive compassion for you, girl. But really, where do you want to go? And what kind of example do you want to set for your family, your children, your friends? Like, you're impacting the way that you speak, the way that you behave is impacting literally every person that you know. Even your parents who taught you how to do the other stuff. Right? So self-love looks for me as like a deeper acceptance and a good, loving, hard parenthood of self. Like, hey, I'm not gonna let you get away with all that shit, but I am gonna be loving and hold you accountable in a loving way.
Yes, I love that you mentioned that. There's several things in there. There's so many golden nuggets that you were talking about. I love it. I love it. And the one where we're getting triggered, like when we're getting triggered, when you were talking about, taking radical responsibility and not pointing at the other person, when we're getting triggered, it's never really about the other person. That's the red flag for us to do the inner work. That's the red flag for us to look at ourselves and go, okay, where did I not feel accepted, approved of, and appreciated and acknowledged growing up? Where is that coming up? They're coming up. The other person is coming up in the form of reflection for us to see where we need. Now I want to say need, because need is coming from ego, where we could do the inner work, where it would be beneficial for our journey of self-love to do the inner work.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of that stems from parenting again. where, we were talking about where we want to, where we were expecting, hopefully, where we get upset. You were talking about something where you got upset with the other person, but it's really about you. And it's a conditioning. It's conditional love. So it's that, it's the bribes. I talk about this in my book. It's about rewards, bribes, coercion. Like when I don't ground my son. Yeah, I know I don't ground him. It's like, it's like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, but because I was grounded all my life, grounded for everything. My nails were a certain length. I was grounded. My hair was messy. I was grounded. I was grounded one time and my friend's egg TP'd my house. I had no idea. I got grounded, but I was grounded. So I was grounded all the time. So I knew it didn't work because all I did was separate my mom and I and keep us further and further apart. And I lied. I snuck around and I did everything I could to be a rebel, but I was still a good girl in front of their face.
Right. And that's a whole concept in itself, the whole good girl, like,
right.
Where you have to buy into that whole, exactly.
Yeah. And so it's like it's like the rewards, like, if you eat your veggies, you get the cookie. So it's that training that we've been ingrained with. So then when we go into relationships and it's like, we have this agenda, when we have an agenda of how we were wanting it to be in that relationship and it doesn't turn out the way we want it, where we're expecting, when we had those expectations, then we get upset, right? And it's like, well, I did this and this for you. Why aren't you appreciating what I did? So it's like, because we've been ingrained with that. That's what we've been modeled with. And so when we're talking about bullying in schools and bullying, it's like, well, how is that? How are we being bullied with how we've been raised? With
really, how are you bullying yourself?
Yes.
How are you trained to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. I love what you were saying about you don't ground your son, because if I mean, we know enough about positive psychology at this moment that prohibitive behaviors have a tendency to create either the excessive move forward for that. And that's what you did. You were like, okay, then I'll be good in front of your face, but I'm still going to have my authentic life.
Yeah.
And have to be treated for, to be rewarded for those behaviors. I mean, that's actually the way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. The way we were punished is the way that we hold the trauma in our body.
Right, exactly. And I wouldn't even say it was my authentic self, because I was playing two different roles. So I wasn't really being authentic. Well, I was actually not. I was doing things to get even. I was doing things. I was starting to smoke. I was smoking. I was changing my outfits when I got out of the house. So I was doing all this stuff because I didn't feel seen or heard or accepted for who I was.
Mm-hmm. And you have to rebel against it.
Yeah.
You're rebelling against you were angry and pissed off that they were forcing you to do something that didn't feel, you weren't acknowledged. Right. And so we were rebelling against it. And I had the same behavior in my childhood too. I rebelled, wildly rebelled, because I was so angry at what happened.
Raise your hand if you rebel against the things because you were really angry and you really wanted.
And so that's where it's like, where the parenting is like, when people say when they're adults, well, I turned out fine. Did you really turn out fine? Like, look at yourself really to see where the conditioning is and where your limiting beliefs are right now.
What does FINE stand for? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and what was the E? Do you know? Have you heard this before?
I haven't. No.
If anyone who's watching knows the last piece of that, write it in.
Oh, I love this.
Yes, I'm curious.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm fine. Sure.
Sure.
And you're like seething, and you're like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say, I want to say a really bold move right now, and I've been thinking a lot about this over the last week. Is that people pleasing? I'm going to just be codependency, people pleasing, fawning is abusive. It's actually a form of psychological gaslighting abuse.
Yes.
Literally manipulating reality for everyone around you.
Yep.
This is, and I know that was a big, bold statement. So if you're watching,
No, I agree.
it's okay.
I agree.
We're trained to do that.
Yeah.
The three of us here have all worked through that process. I can tell you about mine if you want to reach out to me. And like, whoa, it's a big thing. But the way that you reparent yourself, the way that you recode the neurology in your brain, is that you listen to Tangee, you reach out to Dawn, you go get a therapist. Like there's ways to work out the consistent, like, why the fuck am I doing this thing? Like I'm sure if you're watching this show that you've asked yourself that question at least once in your lifetime.
Yes.
How many times have you guys like said that to yourself?
Oh my God.
What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want me to go find the journals? I have like lots of those.
Yeah, infinite amounts of journals asking myself what the fuck is going on. Why is this way? Yeah.
The one thing that pissed me off most about doing my inner work, and maybe you guys will like resonate with this, is that just knowing that I have to change, just being aware of the pattern, just being aware of the work that I have to do and the childhood stuff doesn't change it. It's actually having to do the work to repattern the neural pathways in your brain and your habits. And you know what? You don't have to do it alone, because there's three beautiful friends here right now who are willing to walk you through that.
Yes.
And lovely, this is our work.
Yes.
You're awesome. And
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like, if there's time, I do have, if anybody would like, I mean, I can't see the comments or anything, but this is one of the tools that I do with recoding is through access consciousness and what I do with my clients. So if there is like any limiting beliefs that anybody has, I could share, you know, I'm going to just do this process, but I can't see if there's any, you know, so please put in the comments if there's something, and maybe Trish or Donna, you can. Okay, awesome. But I mean, a big one. So I could start out. So what this is it's kind of like a Hogwarts statement. So it's kind of like a magic Hogwarts statement. And basically I ask a question. And I go, so for instance, let's say something like with not enough, we're not good enough. So anywhere that we're believing that we are not good enough, that we're not worthy, I'm going to ask this question: shall we delete, uncreate, and destory? And so whenever I say, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory, just say yes. You can either say it out loud or you can say it in your mind. That way you're just giving me permission to help recode you, to recode that limiting belief. Like I mentioned earlier, there's 32 points in our brain that store limiting beliefs. So anywhere that we are tied down, that we are shackled to the belief that we are not good enough, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory? And then just say yes. Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimensions, space, energy, and realities. This in a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, puck and pod, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. I know it's a weird Hogwarts statement, so it's not about the words. It's about the energy and frequency behind my words when I'm doing these recoding. So what would it look like? What would it feel like for us to stand in our power, step up into our truth, and know that we are good enough, that we are worthy of self-love and attracting love and abundance in all forms? And anywhere that we are still have that in a little inner voice that doesn't believe in this, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory? Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimensions, space, energy, and realities. This in a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, puck and pod, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Puck and pod, point of creation and point of destruction. And so what I'm doing here in this recoding is I'm unstoring, destoring, uncreating all and deleting all of these limiting beliefs, these patterns that we were raised in. So are there does anybody have any limiting beliefs that you would like some clearings on? Has anybody shared yet?
No one's shared yet.
Okay, no worries. How about for you two? Do you have one that you want to be cleared?
Oh yeah. let's talk about timing.
Yes.
Here, let's talk about being on other people's timing. And
and frustration when others pull upon your own timing when you're wanting to do something that's very important to you, and then you're having to sidetrack.
Okay, good. So anywhere that we're being pulled in too many places where it's hard for us to say no and say no to others and say yes to ourselves, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory?
Yes.
Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimensions, space, energy, and realities. This and a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it all out. What energy, space, and consciousness can we be to trust in the timing, to trust that we are in divine timing? And anywhere that we feel like we're not in divine timing and we're running out of time, or are we being pulled away with our own time, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory?
Yes.
Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimensions, space, energy, and realities. This and a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds. What would it look like? What would it feel like? Just really step into that place, that future-paced scripting. Feel in all your 5 senses right now. What would it feel like? What would it smell like? What does it taste when you're celebrating that you have enough time? That time is also just an illusion. And anywhere that we're shackled to time, anywhere that time is our enemy, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory?
Yes.
Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimensions, space, energy, and realities. This and a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it all out. How are you feeling? Do you feel like you need more clearings on time?
I feel great.
That was awesome. It sounds like a rap.
The interesting thing is I do spoken word. And so then when I do it, it just comes out like that.
I love it. I'm like, this kind of sounds like a rap. I like this.
Yeah.
Can we do another? And
Yes.
It's for someone who's watching. And I know that, there's a couple, we have our friends we know people.
Yeah.
Dawn and I know people, and you probably know people. There's people that we know who have, who have experiences that keep, hi mom.
Hi mom.
We love you. Thank
you.
That I know someone who has an experience in their life who might not get as much attention from other people that they and I would love to do some clearing around that. Is anyone else in the chat want something around that? Is like wanting someone's time and not being able to get it, or feeling important to another person, or feeling like a priority, or feeling like, that's part of their love languages and not getting that, getting the needs met.
So what's coming to me is going back to that self-love. I'm going to tie in both. So anywhere that we're feeling like not appreciated, not seen, not heard, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory?
Yes.
Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimensions, space, energy, and realities. This and a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyond. What energy, space, and consciousness can we be to trust, fully trust that we are being seen and heard once we really, 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 really dive into our self-love? Because when we're fully loving ourselves, when we're being that love, when we're being that essence, it's impossible for us not to attract that to ourselves as well.
Yes.
Whether it come from relationships, whether it come from money and abundance, whatever it is that we're wanting to get from our current reality to our desired reality, it just is. So anywhere that we still have work to do, but we're not willing to do the inner work,
Yes.
or perhaps we just haven't done the inner work, shall we delete, uncreate, and destory?
Yes.
Let's clear and transmute across all times, dimension, space, energy, and realities. This and a gazillion times infinity. Right and wrong, good and bad, puck and pod, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds. Take a nice deep breath in. And really breathe into your heart. And hold it for a few seconds. And let it out. How you feeling?
That was so sweet.
It's so great.
I adore you. Will you be my auntie?
Yay, yes. I would love to. I've never been asked that before.
That's awesome.
I've been so I'm
Adopting you.
say what?
I said we're adopting you.
Yay.
I've been really thinking about like certain types of archetypes, or like I'm creating an auntie character, and you have this really like auntie energy, and I'm gonna explain it to you so it's not like auntie energy is like, come here, you. I've got some stuff for you, and it's gonna be all about love and some juice and maybe some sass, and it's gonna be really good, and I've got you. And I'm gonna love you and accept you. Like that's very auntie energy.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
What a great compliment. I love
I
that.
know. I'm just receiving that right now. Thank you. Wow. I'm like getting all teary-eyed right now. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Woo. Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge you for the work you've done in your parenting journey with your son, taking the conscious choice to move forward in your spiritual path, really being committed to being the amazing coach you are. Like, it's beautiful, and I really see the authenticity in all your sharing, and it's just so heartfelt and gorgeous. And I'm so proud to acknowledge you and see your light, that you're doing the work. It's great. It's like such a good service. And I know that you change mama's lives out there that really need that love and that modeling of like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. Right. And that's so powerful.
It is. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's like and I realized like that was part of my soul's purpose, is like with single moms, because, and I've heard from single dads who have been like, gosh, I wish the mom was like you, who could just be more accepting and not be so bitter. And it's like, so I'm hearing both sides. And it's just like, if we can just release the bitterness and the triggers, because it's never about them, and just really look within and recode those inner child wounds that's showing up, that person is showing up and still showing up that way for you, because you're not willing to do that, or you're not seeing that it's yourself that has to do the inner work.
Yeah. So,
sorry.
I want to riff off of what you were saying about triggers. And I've said this a million times in the shows, but I'm going to say it again. So anytime you're triggered, it's yours. Yeah. And how you relate to the issue is the issue.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Yes.
It's actually a spiritual psychology principle. So how you relate to the issue is the issue. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very, very powerful, for all our viewers out there, if you're catching the show the first time, I've said this many times, it's such a powerful spiritual psychology principle that will help awakening. And really, anytime you're triggered, just put your hand on your heart and ask yourself, how am I relating to this? That's the issue.
Yes.
And it gets you to tune in inwardly and really tune in to like, what's the incongruence for me here? It's not outside, it's inside.
Yep. Yep. I love that. There's a quote that I love. I think it's unknown, but allowing someone to, holding a grudge is allowing someone to live rent free in your head.
Yes. I've heard that before, and it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just like, and because of the journey of like with my son's dad and I, like for now, I'm so freaking grateful. Like we are at a place where we are friends again.
Yeah.
We've known each other for 30 years. There's history there. We've got a child together, and it's like, I can either be bitter, and you got to say, there's been things in our past where I was just like, oh my God, like this is a lot of stuff. But it was just like, I always went back to myself. and going, okay, where do I get to do the inner work? Instead of where I have to, where do I get to? It's also changing that language around, it's just like, it's just shifting that perspective. And my son's going to come over and give a hug and kiss.
Hey, come back. Come here.
They want to, this is my son, Andrick.
Hi, buddy. Hi.
He was hearing me, so he's like, I'm going to give mom a hug. I love you, baby.
What you're saying about, I love your son.
Thank you.
I love what you were saying about, it's changing the language. And that's one of the reasons why I don't use heal anymore. I don't use healing because it implies brokenness. I use healing for bones and things that are actually like ripped and broken. But it's like it's transformation or perspective shifting.
Yes. I love that.
And another piece about, I've said this a zillion times too, is like, who's feeling the feelings? Like, my son's feeling the feelings. Who's feeling the feelings?
Yes.
And the hotter the trigger, or the hotter the emotion, the less likely it is about the other person. Because it's really a core value or a core like need or want in your being. So it's like, yeah, Tangee, if you like totally do something and I am like, whoa, and I am fuming, I know that it's about me. And I can sense that, and I might take space, which is a good opportunity to like love the other person. Like, I'm mad. I'm gonna take space now. That's not ever how it comes out. It's like, oh no.
Yes.
I'm doing my own shit right now. But that's the thing, is like, I know that I'm feeling the feelings. So for all of you watching, if you're upset or whatever, it is about you. Again, we're just like reiterating this. It's about you.
Yeah.
Who's feeling the feelings? You're feeling the feelings. Yes, they could have done something mean. They could have said something really abrasive that tripped something inside of you, a belief, a thought, an insecurity, a story that you
memory.
And I'm certain that they're not doing it on purpose. If they're doing it on purpose, you might want to renegotiate your relationship. I don't know. That's just a thought. You might want to ask them what they need right now. If they're trying to upset you, unless they're children, because they also have nonsense needs and they're probably like, touching something on purpose. That it really is like, what are the strategies to get your needs met?
Yeah.
And again, our feelings are direct pointers to those things. And your feelings are, telling us how to think and what we want and need. I love you both so much.
Oh, I love you both. I'm so grateful to be on here with you both. I feel like we're just kindred sisters.
Yeah, we're all doing this similar work, and it's beautiful. Like, I love the concept of schools in session. When we have emotional content and material surface, it's our spiritual curriculum in this lifetime. And the people, we have sacred friendships, we have sacred connections that evoke it from us. And it's not wrong or bad, and it's letting go of believing or cleansing the lens of perception of believing that it's wrong or then you're in the wrong place or why is that happening, instead of just get curious and lean in and go, why am I so angry? Why am I so emotional? Why am I so sad? And really start to look at your patterning. And it's a deeper opportunity. Everything is an opportunity for our awakening.
Yes. And I'd like to also add to that. So instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me?
For me. Yes.
And then when you can shift it from that, it's like, that's when you can see the gift. That's when you can see whatever the experience is as a gift and something to learn and expand and grow from.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Our viewers and our regular viewers, like Antonia, you are here all the time, and you are giving so much. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for commenting along. You're giving a lot, and this is what we live for. We live for you as well. Jennifer, thank you also for showing up. And Gloria, so sweet. And my mom was on the show.
Oh, yay.
Oh, and Jennifer share. Okay, fine. I'm gonna fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for sharing us out. Thank you for really being part of committing to your self-love, committing to the love of others, and sharing us out and allowing us to have a greater impact. Hi, Mama. I love you too.
Aww. She's like still here. Antonia said, "Go ahead."
Yeah. Aww.
Yay.
I'd love to be able to just share out Tangee's information. And again, if this, go find her. Click these links. She's amazing.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. I'm also doing I'm going to be launching a program, an online program. It's been long overdue. It's called the Solo Mama Warriorpreneurs Mastermind for single moms. Yeah, so I'm going to be launching that in September.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it hasn't. I don't have the link yet. I'm doing it right now.
That's okay. You could say a little bit about it if you like.
Yeah, yeah. It's just going to be a journey of just like. It's going to be 6 months, and we're going to meet up online, and I'm going to be able to go through the recodings. It's also going to be on my book, so tools and really not even tools, but a family philosophy on conscious parenting. And there's also going to be tools on self-love and also on entrepreneurship, healing that money mindset and tools on becoming an entrepreneur. Yeah.
So excited for you.
Thank you. Or even if you are an entrepreneur, just, enhancing your entrepreneurship.
Yes. Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yay.
I'd also love to thank Sign Network. They're running us out on 44 pages right now. And a couple people who have shared out our pages privately. And this really makes a difference. Sign is a beautiful network. They're beautiful people, beautiful network, and they're really sharing out they're being the change that they want to see in the world. And this is a global web of love and compassion. And so thank you, John and Summer. Thank you, Scott Thomas of Love Coach Academy, for being a great teacher in my life and being the foundation of the show, the muse.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, beautiful ladies, sisters, goddesses. I'm so appreciative of both of you for having me on here. I feel so honored. Thank you.
So appreciative too. Thank you for the opportunity to share and the gift of who you are and the work you do in the world. And really deeply appreciate you so much. And I just want to do a shout out to if this type of work calls to you, if what I spoke about untangling the sex and money patterns and, really untangling your relationship in your marriage or partnership, because I've been married now 18 years and I'm holding down the fort with marriage. So I have some knowledge there. It's not easy. It can be very challenging, long-term relationships. And I really desire to help women really show those identifications and cleanse the limits of perception so that you can really step further into a deeper committed partnership where it's balanced and it's equal and you're not holding the stories of imbalance or struggle, or if you're showing up in your partnership where you're feeling like everything is out of balance, it's wonky, you're working through deep patterning, it's surfacing and you're not happy, then reach out and come into this group called Reclaim Your Trust. It's our Facebook group. It's free. Please come on in. We have amazing resources and tools all about reclaiming trust, because that's the depth of the work. Is really everything comes down to our level of trust with ourselves, and it's all about exploring where are the boundaries and barriers I'm holding myself to that's creating the patterns. So I just invite you forward into Reclaiming Your Trust. It's an amazing program and group that we're holding, and I'm about to launch also a really beautiful program. And so I'm preparing on the back end, and I probably will launch in September. We'll see. I just am waiting for all the little bells and whistles and details to get all wrapped up, and then I'm going to go full force. But yay, it's exciting. We want you in the group. Come join us.
I'm going to join you too.
Yeah,
I'm like, I want to check it out.
Come on in.
You could be guest feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's brainstorm on the side about that.
I would love that. Yes.
All right. I love you ladies so much. And thank you to our viewers. See you next week, 10 a.m. on Thursday morning.
Yay.